Everybody's got mics on. I turned them on all on earlier. They all red?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. You tell me, are we, Penny? Penny, are we good on? Or no? It's loading?
It's streaming, but I was going to go online and
Okay.
Is Brenda doing that?
Trying.
Okay.
Yep, we're live.
Okay.
Oh, I buried it in papers. There's a copy. Scott, you need a copy? Okay. All right. Call to order the Vermillion County Council special meeting. If you'll please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, I ask for your presence today during this special meeting. We need you to provide peace and understanding as we explore the needs of this community regarding the subject of economic development, the growth of this community, and our leadership. Allow us to explore and discern truth without putting blame on any one individual. Lord, we want the truth and not half-truths in our discussion. We ask for your wisdom. We humbly ask for your guidance today. Guide and protect our country, Vermillion County, and our families. Help us to be the overseers, not the judge and jury. You are our judge. We fear only you. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen. All right. Roll call. Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mr. Somerville.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. Mrs. James, I'm present. Mrs. Furry. Here. Mr. Bose.
Here.
And Mr. Weir.
Here.
All right, we are all present. Today's meeting is about economic development.
Can I make a statement real quick to the council? I know that Ashley's gonna get ready.
Speak loud so everybody can hear you.
I know that the council, she's going to read something. All I'm asking is for, let her finish what she's reading before we comment, so she doesn't get off track. That's all I ask.
Sure.
Okay?
Thank you.
Ashley, was there anything in the agenda that we needed to clarify or take out of that before it starts or not? Wasn't there something in there that was added that we didn't have in ours, or was that?
The public comment was on the very end, and
Okay.
if that needed to be adjusted, we should do that at the beginning.
Right.
So if there's a need to adjust any of the public comment.
Can you guys hear her?
No? Okay. Public comment was the item that was not necessarily placed by us on the agenda, so if it needs to be moved at any point, we need to do that before discussion. Is there any need to move it?
I don't have any issues with it. I just wanted to bring it up to the attention of the council. If anyone else does, you can obviously speak freely for that.
Yep. So, okay, we'll go. Leave it
I'm
where it's
not
at.
opposed either. Moving public comment.
I just
So
wanted to make a
deemed.
point that it was, we didn't put it on there, but it is on there, so I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
You may still have to move your mic forward. I might even have a hard time
If
hearing.
she's gonna read a lot, I'd ask you to maybe come to the podium or pull your mic to you so everyone can hear.
Get this thing out of my. You want mine?
Do I want yours?
It's in back.
Okay. In an effort to be transparent as possible, please bear with me for this lengthy statement. After much conversation, concern, and consideration, the council has called this meeting with possible actions to be taken. It has always been the desire of the council to have a productive and efficient economic development department. I would first like to start with the timeline of recent events that have led to this meeting. Starting with December 30th, 2024, a special commissioners meeting is posted on the bulletin board at the county courthouse. 3 days later, on January 2nd, 2025, a special commissioners meeting is held. The joint resolution establishing a structure for economic development coalition, the department, is repealed by 2 commissioners. The County Council did not receive any notification of the special meeting from current commissioners, nor did they receive any correspondence in advance of the decision to repeal the joint resolution. January 4th, County Councilman Neil Costello sent an email to R.J. Donovan, President of the County Commissioners, asking if it would be appropriate to hold off on hiring someone for Economic Development Director until the County Council's first meeting. January 13th, the County Council held their regularly scheduled monthly meeting. A meeting to discuss economic development was established with the date and time of January 27th at 2 p.m. This meeting time and date was established and recorded on video and announced publicly. January 14th, the day after the council's meeting, a notice was sent to the Tribune-Star to legally advertise the reduction of appropriation for Fund 1149 Economic Development in the amount of $330,270. This notice was sent as soon as possible because a reduction of appropriation, as like additional appropriations, must be advertised in a published newspaper at least 10 days before a vote can take place. By advertising a reduction or additional appropriation, it gives the council the ability to make necessary approvals if needed. A reduction or additional appropriation that has been advertised does not guarantee approval. Also, a reduction or additional appropriation can be approved at an amount less than advertised, but not more than advertised. Therefore, due to timelines set by the state, this advertisement was made in case the council felt it needed to be utilized. January 16th, the Tribune-Star printed the notice to taxpayers, this is the title of the notice. It says, Notice to Taxpayers of Additional Appropriations and/or Appropriation Reduction in the newspaper. January 21st, 8:49 a.m., Misty S. from the auditor's office emailed me to ask if anything else needed added to the meeting agenda. On that same day at 2 o'clock, after many conversations with fellow council members, I contacted the county attorneys to draft documents for the reduction of appropriation and removal of whatever elements of economic development might still be in place, essentially creating a clear slate. January 22nd, the next day, I replied to Misty S. and stated I did not have the exact items for the agenda yet, and I had hoped to have them by Friday. Friday, January 24th, I received an email from the county attorneys with the resolution and ordinance. I sent it to all county council members for review. After a few typos were fixed, the attorneys sent new copies of the documents. I sent an email to the auditor's office requesting the meeting agenda be adjusted to include the titles of the resolution and ordinance. I received an email confirming changes were made, but no copy of the actual typed agenda. Later that evening, an employee of the auditor's office posted the typed agenda on Facebook. This was our first look at the complete agenda. And here we are today, January 27th at 2 p.m. I wanted to highlight, there were some questions on when things were done, so I wanted to make sure there was an accurate timeline for everyone.
Ashley, you were communicating with Misty Hess or Misty Sandlin?
S. Sandlin, sorry.
S, okay, I was hearing Hess, sorry.
I said S, so sorry.
Okay.
I didn't think about that. All right. The continual power struggle and lack of organization has got to stop. It is this dysfunction in economic development that has plagued our county for years. The County Council drafted the joint resolution in order to bring structure and guidance to the Economic Development Department that it had lacked for several years. It provided a concise organizational plan of how it was to operate. It was a document that was black and white in regards to its operation. Then, in an abrupt decision held at a commissioner's special meeting that was not sent to the auditor's office or in any newspapers, 2 commissioners voted to rescind the joint resolution. The commissioners stated they gave their authority to hire a director to the Economic Development Commission. This commission also had some turmoil. At the January 2nd meeting, the county commissioners also voted to rescind the recent appointment of Roxanne Scott to the Economic Development Commission and stated that Commissioner R.J. Donovan's father, Ron Donovan, was still on the commission until January 31st, 2025. While the commission term does end on January 31st, 2025, the appointment of Roxanne did not have to be removed. To my knowledge, the commissioners have not advertised applications for the reappointment of this position, so Ron Donovan will remain on the commission past the January 31, 2025 date until a new appointment can be made and sworn in. There is also a question as to whether rescinding the joint resolution gives the county commissioners or the Economic Development Commission the ability to hire a new director. The commissioners essentially removed themselves from the operations of Economic Development Department with the repeal of the joint resolution. I would also like to give a brief history of economic development in Vermillion County. When the Economic Development Commission was created in 1994, nearly 31 years ago, there was not a director for Economic Development Department. The Economic Development Department and the Commission were created by an ordinance approved by the Vermillion County Council. A year later, in 1995, a resolution approved by the Vermillion County Council created the Economic Development Council. The ability to hire a director was given to the council, meaning the Economic Development Council. The Economic Development Council was responsible for, and I quote, making recommendations to the Vermillion County Council for the establishing and prioritizing goals consistent with economic development in Vermillion County. Responsibilities also included preparing and submitting an annual budget to the County Council for review and approval. Over the years, the council became more than an advisory board it was created to be. In May of 2021, an email from the county attorney in regards to Economic Development Council stated, "What the county is currently doing is neither in accordance with statutory process nor is it following their own resolutions and ordinances. This leaves their decisions susceptible to a legal challenge." The Economic Development Council was then agreeably dissolved at a joint meeting of the County Commissioners, County Council, Economic Development Commission, Economic Development Council, and the Vermillion Rise Board. After the council was dissolved, it became a question of who was in charge of hiring a director for economic development. At this time, the current director was Doug Hess, so no hiring in the immediate future was necessary. In August of 2022, Doug and his administrative assistant worked with an attorney from Terre Haute to develop a new structure for economic development that could be legally adopted. Ron Donovan, the Economic Development Commission president, questioned the claims being paid to the attorney and asked what the attorney was working on. The Economic Development Commission then conducted a meeting that was ultimately held with only Ron Donovan and Randy Dreer attending. They changed the agenda, and the two members of the commission voted to fire the attorney who was drafting the new structure for economic development. They also voted to fire the administrative assistant. The administrative assistant was planning on retiring soon, and after a letter from Doug, the director, the commission allowed the administrative assistant to retire. The commission then hired a new attorney to represent the commission and used the Economic Development Department money to hire this attorney. No further progress was made to draft any legal documents for a permanent structure for economic development, despite further attorney bills accumulating. At no time has the Economic Development Commission had a budget of their own approved by the County Council. The money they spent came from local income tax dollars assigned to the department. The Vermillion County Council stepped in and had the joint resolution creating the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition drafted. This resolution was approved in 2023 by the County Council and the County Commissioners. This joint resolution stated the Vermillion County Commissioners had the authority to hire a director of the Economic Development Coalition. The term coalition was used in terms of the department. The word coalition was selected so everything we had in the county, including email addresses, stationery, websites, etc., would not have to be rebranded, and the initials EDC, formerly used for the Economic Development Council, could still be used. This resolution gave the Economic Development Director the ability to hire an assistant. It also set guidelines on how small business loan applications were to be reviewed for recommendations of approval. This joint resolution formally dissolved the Economic Development Council, who was originally given the ability to hire the director, and stated the Economic Development Commission duties were limited to the statutory authority given to it by the Indiana Code Chapters 36, 7, 11.9, and 12. The joint resolution set the guidelines and direction for the Economic Development Coalition, the department. It was vital for the daily operations and ensuring there was structure. The joint resolution was not created to give the commissioners power or control over economic development. It was created to set up Economic Development Coalition or department in a similar way other departments without elected officials are currently set up. Several other departments without elected officials or appointed boards are hired by county commissioners. It was the intent of the joint resolution to give the Economic Development Director the ability to run an office and not be constrained by boards, commissions, or other agendas. The joint resolution created structure for economic development. The County Council approved the 2025 budget for the Department of Economic Development based on this structure being in place. Without it, there is no legal document that encompasses the direction and guidance needed for this department. We, the Vermillion County Council, feel that it is financially irresponsible to allow a budget of over $300,000 of taxpayers' local income tax money to be available to be spent without legally documented structure and guidance. Over the years, the County Council has been committed to the growth and prosperity of Vermillion County. We want our county to succeed while also being diligent with taxpayers' money. As I hope you see, there have been many organizational struggles with economic development in the past years. With the Commissioners rescinding the joint resolution on January 2nd, 2025, our county is now in confusion with what legal resolutions or ordinances are in effect, if any. County Commissioner President R.J. Donovan made a few comments at the special Commissioners meeting on January 2nd, 2025 that we would like to address. In regards to the comment stating the Economic Development Commission was working well with economic development and should be in charge of this department, there have been some issues in the past that negate this opinion. While not every Economic Development Commissioner was in favor of these situations or voted to approve them, there are several issues that have occurred that cause concern with using the Economic Development Commission as an oversight for the Economic Development Department. The following are such. Approving small business loans that were not reviewed by banking professionals as requested. Approving small business loans and paying the applicants directly with loan proceeds instead of sending the proceeds to vendors for the items approved to be purchased. Additionally, no proof of items being purchased with loan proceeds was acquired. Approving small business loans where family members of a commission member benefited. These loans were also not reviewed by banking professionals prior to the approval. Failure to appropriately secure collateral to cover small business loans. This particular case nearly cost the county tens of thousands of dollars. Using Economic Development Department funds to pay for an attorney for the commission while also stalling the progress of a legal department structure. Repeated attempts to purchase a vehicle costing more than $80,000 despite a vehicle request being denied at County Council budget hearings. An approval by 2 Economic Development Commission members to send a letter of support for the Wabash Valley Resources Carbon Sequestration Project affecting Vermillion County. This letter was sent to state representatives on behalf of the Economic Development Department representing support by our county. This letter was not given to anyone in the county, nor was anyone else in the county informed of the decision for this letter to be sent. Elected county officials were notified by state officials that 2 letters, one from Economic Development and one from a commissioner, had been received on Vermillion County letterhead. The approval to send a letter of support for a project that directly affects hundreds, if not thousands, of taxpayers should have been communicated with county elected officials. We have received several employee complaints against the Economic Development Commission president in regards to the manner in which they were treated. Every employee that has worked in Economic Development Department over the past 4 years has voiced a concern at one point or another. And most recently, a conflict of interest between related parties of the county commissioners and their appointments to the Economic Development Commission and the Economic Development Director position. Another misstatement we would like to correct is that the economic development tax will not be affected. The tax that funds the Economic Development Coalition, the department, is generated from local income tax. The department was originally funded with EDIT, the Economic Development Income Tax, before the state allowed the LIT. The total local income tax for Vermillion County is currently 1.5%. The portion of that tax that funds the Economic Development Department and a portion of the highway is collectively 0.25%. There is much more flexibility with spending abilities with the local income tax than there was when the EDIT was first created and adopted. In summary, without the joint resolution for economic development, we are left with the confusion and turmoil we attempted to remove from our county. Any decisions made this afternoon, would be with the desire to provide a blank slate, one that is clear of any past resolutions, ordinances, boards, councils, commissions, or personal agendas. We want to create a clear and concise path for economic development in our county that is also fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. We are open to working with the county commissioners to reestablish this structure and guidance we thought we had once achieved. It is not our desire to push our county backwards, but to provide a clear path to move forward. In order to promote our county, we must have a strong foundation to support our future. So, I appreciate you listening to my very long statement, but we felt that those were issues that need to be addressed right up front so that there was an understanding of why this meeting has been created and the desire that the council would like to have.
Ashley James,
Yes.
I'd like to also share with the council and the public here today. Has to do with, I'll say, a Facebook post regarding my application for the Economic Development Director. January 2nd, Special Commissioners Meeting. Subject, Economic Development Coalition. Repealed by commissioners to a vote of 2-1. January 3rd, 2025, job posting by Auditor 1, Vermillion County at 1525 for Director of Economic Development. Job posting. Retiree. Don't have a whole lot to do. I felt like I was qualified, probably minimum qualifications. I responded and said that I'm interested. What's the salary? What's the qualifications? Please provide me a link so I can apply. January 4th, Neil Costello, County Council. Ask, was it appropriate to hold off on hiring until council's first meeting? January 8th, 10:52, from Ron Donovan 63 at Gmail. He asked me, since I'd already applied, so to speak, over the internet email, says, Rick, can you send or drop off your resume at the restaurant or courthouse? I'll be posting a meeting next week. Get it to me as soon as possible. Call if you have questions. January 8th, 11:04 a.m. Can you provide a link to the job posting? When does it end? Salary range. I'll have to work up and update my resume. At January 12th at 06:11 from R. Donovan 63 at Gmail. Sorry, I just seen this. Don't worry about the resume. Can you interview during an executive session on Thursday at 6 p.m.? Thursday when? Job starts at $65,000. I assume the interview was the Economic Development Commissioner's headquarters. January 16th, I show up at 5:30 p.m. and the interview was conducted at 6 p.m. January 21st, I responded to Mr. Donovan. Good afternoon, Ron. I'm assuming I wasn't selected as the Economic Development Director in Vermillion County. I'm hearing rumors that Doug Hess was hired. I'd appreciate any further feedback for personal improvement. I have not heard back from you, Ron. I also have recommendations I'd like to go over later, and also questions for Commissioner Mr. Donovan, RJ.
Do you want those questions now, or do you want?
No, I'm just going to let you guys share if there's any other
Okay.
questions.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
If not, I'm prepared to share some more.
He can continue. I have a statement, but he may continue.
Okay. So observations through this interview process. My recommendation to the council, what I seen, not opinion, but what I seen. Truth, not half-truth. No organized structure to the interview process. No resume provided by me, the candidate for the interview. None for the interviewers to review. Very few questions regarding economic development skills that I have. I have some. I shared that I had worked in the economic development department. My truth at the interview was I had helped gather data for large industrial customers and commercial accounts and shared those information with our industrial and commercial sales representative. I do have some other qualifications, but I won't go into all those. No follow-up on my email on my economic development experience shared in the email, as I just stated. My information, my working relationship was from the 1980s, nothing current. No standards of uniform questions to all candidates. I did not see anything that I'm accustomed to as far as HR skills and etc. I understand there was no rubric used in the candidate evaluation process, no feedback to the candidate on improved skills needed or if successful or not after approximately 1 week. I feel like the interview process, trying to attempt to select for a candidate, was not sufficient. I don't know that I met the minimum qualifications. I definitely did not exceed the qualifications.
Thank you for your comments. Neil, did you have?
Yeah, I got a statement that I prepared myself because I try to gather as much information as I can on my own about the whole situation. It's pretty complex. It's a complex situation. It involves a lot of money. It involves people, careers, perhaps, laws. But to me, timing is everything. As the president of the council spelled out earlier, there's a lot of things that happen in order, and it matters. And I also try to approach this whole situation by keeping in mind that it deals with the public's private property. And what I mean by that is money. People exchange hours of their lives for money. And there's only a certain number of hours that you're going to get on Earth for that. So when we take it from them, it's important that it's serious and well accounted for. Well, that being said, the next level I take something to when I work for this council is to look at the law. I'm not a legal person, but I try to look at the law as much as can because it gives us direction and order to these types of things. And so, with that being said, the county council currently does not have any type of agreement with the commissioners regarding economic development department. As stated earlier, as of January 2nd, this commissioner's special meeting, it was scheduled in the public's best interest, I assume, with notice that they were going to end the joint resolution between the council and the commissioners, which created the Economic Development Coalition. At the point at which the commissioners did this, they were no longer involved in decisions regarding the EDC, in my opinion. The coalition is what gave the commissioners authority. And I say this because when I look at Indiana Code Title 36, that's a section involves establishing an economic development department and commission. And in that, in section 4, it says a fiscal body, which is all these people, me I guess, the fiscal body of a unit, which is the county, finds it, if they find it necessary to finance economic development or pollution control facilities under this chapter, the fiscal body may establish a Department of Economic Development to be controlled by commission. Well, that code is what gave the council the ability to do this. And I know this because when I look at an ordinance drafted and signed in 1994, 94-2, I don't see anybody's signatures on here except council members. And it states what the purpose of it is. Later, there were resolutions that created the Economic Development Council. The commission that was created felt it was necessary to have a council to operate. And again, the timeline of that was all spelled out. That was a year later, in 1995. Several years after that, in 2002, the council had to make another resolution to amend a resolution to modify how many people are on this. And again, these are all, only signatures on these are council. So it's clear to me that the authority lies with the council to create it. So later we come to the joint resolution, which is a 2023 resolution, further modifying this Economic Development Council, eliminated it, called it out by name, and said that, you know, certain things are removed. This is the new document that we're going to use going forward. So on January 2nd, the commissioners said, we don't want this anymore. At that point, they're done, in my opinion. The authority reverts back to the council to do something with economic development. So that's when I got nervous, because on, I think the 3rd is when I saw an email that said, hey, we're hiring for the Economic Development Department. A day later is hiring someone for a job. That caught my attention. So I sent Commissioner President R.J. Donovan an email immediately asking, well, I'll just read it. It says, since the commissioners voted to eliminate the joint resolution, which creates the Economic Development Coalition, would it be proper to hold off on hiring anybody for a new economic development positions? The council must vote to repeal its agreement, in my opinion, and the process that creates a joint resolution. There should be a new agreement or some understanding of the way forward. That was my email. And again, I'm just a council person, so I can't force anybody to do these things. His reply back was on the 6th, 2 days later. It said that it's my understanding from attorneys that once we did what we did at our meeting, the joint resolution is no more. Okay. I suppose the council could rescind it as well. Well, thanks for the permission. But once one party rescinds it, it's my understanding it's no good. I believe the understanding from the majority of the commissioners is that the EDC Commission, as stated in the meeting, would oversee economic development in its entirety, and we would delegate our authority to them. My question on that response was, what authority? You just voted to repeal the resolution that gave you any authority. And that goes back to my statement earlier of timing being everything. Things happen in order. Once you give up your rights to do something, you can't keep doing them. He also went on to say, if you'd like to see that in writing or some format, I'll work with the attorney and commissioners and get something in writing. That same day I said, okay, well, one party ending the agreement makes it null and void, I understand. It might be prudent for the council to officially and publicly acknowledge rescinding our half of the joint resolution. After all, it was necessary that we vote together to approve it jointly. I cannot speak for the entire council, but something such as an overall plan in writing will become necessary at some point. That was it. That was on the 6th. I didn't get any further communications, emails, or anything about it. Then one day on the 17th, so that was what, 11 days later, it is, I get notice that a person was hired by the EDC Commission. And today I'm told $65,000 a year. I didn't know that until just now. You would think the council would know what salaries are set in Vermillion County, or what maybe a job description would be. I don't know. Apparently not. On January 21st, several days later, it was another email stating, and this is not an email to me, this is an email to everybody, I guess, that they were going to hire yet another person. It was an administrative assistant. I don't see anything in Title 36 that gives an EDC commission any authority to hire people. I may be wrong. I may have misread it. I don't know. I don't see anything in there where any EDC has any authority to hire anybody. But it's happening. So what are we to do? What's the council to do? We have a meeting like we have right now to discuss ordinance 94-2 and the budget for that. Only then, when we mention that we're going to have this meeting and we're going to possibly take some action on this to gain control, it looks like a runaway situation. Only then do I get an email from Commissioner Donovan. I actually received a phone call prior to the email, but I didn't answer the phone. I was busy doing some stuff. I could have answered it, but honestly, I didn't want to answer the call because I'm done talking about it. It wasn't until this meeting came up, that anyone wanted to discuss it with me. Because I said earlier that on the 6th of January was the last time anybody had talked to me about it. I asked the questions. Well, the email, I believe it was sent to every council member. It was kind of like a crisis mode situation email, the way I read it. I've read crisis emails before. I know when things get out of control, you've got to try to do whatever you can. But R.J. Donovan, Commissioner, wrote that Scott, meaning, I guess, Council Attorney Scott, informed me on the phone there's a conflict with the commissioners and the council. That's true. If there is one, no one has contacted or shared any concerns with us. That was the next sentence. That's not true. I just read to you what I wrote. We can't fathom that the county council would zero out the budget. Well, I can. Essentially firing the EDC director. So now we're threatened with firing people. Well, just for everybody's information, the council can't hire people or fire people. We do not do that. We don't have the authority to do that. But I'm being told that I can. I'm essentially. And the email goes on. The commissioners were crystal clear. We didn't want to be in charge of economic development and delegate our authority to the EDC Commission. I think what he meant was he didn't want to be in charge, and he does delegate the authority. I'll give him that. We instructed the commission any new... First of all, they got rid of the joint resolution before all this. So instructing people to do what? What commission? Instructed the commission any new director would be in charge of the budget in its entirety. That's a lot to say when you're not in charge of something. Apparently the council's not in charge of the budget. This is. And the board would only approve the claims. Well, Ron Donovan, the auditor's on the board. Kind of hard for that board to approve claims that when you're the audit. I don't know how all that works. There's conflicts, in my opinion. People talk about conflicts of interest all the time. I mean, I point these out, and then there's always people in line to say, well, that's not actually a conflict of interest. You know, it looks like it. The email goes on. It says, what kind of message is this county sending saying we're going to zero out the budget? How can we succeed and move forward with I-74 development or any other development? There was nothing wrong with us delegating our authority, well, except you didn't have the authority to do that. You, the council, had no issues when the commissioners oversaw a department. We had a joint resolution. The resolution described it. And now you do. We do because we don't have an agreement. Yes, we have a problem. Have any of you told the EDC director he will be out of a job come Monday? Again, the threat of us, we didn't hire him, but yet I got to tell him these things. That's the threat. I'm supposed to be afraid to act because somebody's got a job. A job we didn't even know about. But I would surely hope so. I honestly hope the council president or someone will return these texts, emails, phone calls, etc. This is a huge decision and will have ripple effects that will cost this county for years to come. Yeah, it's going to cost the county, just like the EDC department's cost the county for 30 years, a lot of money. Okay, it's important, but there's been a lot of money spent. So, if we sit down and talk about this for a minute, how's it going to affect the county for years to come? Good luck on ever hiring a director or creating any growth if you zero out the budget. Firing the newly hired director. There's that one again. I'm firing people. The commissioners took action and laid out a vision. Well, again, the commissioners took action. You see, they're not responsible for it, but they took action. It's written right here. And laid out what we expect economic development to do and what happens next. And the council's looking to zero out the budget. This already gives us a terrible look in and around our communities. People hate us now. We're the bad guys. People create chaos. They do things. And then when it all blows up, they start pointing fingers at me or anyone else on this council. Create chaos. And then see how far you can push something before somebody stops it. And then say, we're the problem. Well, in closing, I still question whether the auditor of any county in Indiana, I'm not talking about the auditor here, I'm talking about any auditor in any county can serve on an economic development board. And I've heard the fact that it doesn't have a salary attached. And that's why it's not a lucrative position. And I've done my own research on it, and I'm probably wrong, but I can read. And what I find is that in Indiana, an economic development commissioner is not entitled to a salary. It's very clear. It says that in Title 36. But it does say they are entitled to a per diem if the unit of government's fiscal body allows it. Well, we don't pay per diem to economic development commissioner seats. But we could, we just don't. They just never have wanted to. So then you look at the laws regarding holding two offices in Indiana, and among those things mentioned, it talks about the fact that per diem is considered compensation, and the whether or not something's a dual office has a lot to do with whether compensation is received or could be received. It doesn't have to be received. A person can't say, I just don't want the salary, I'll just do it for free. It's offered. And if it's offered, it makes it lucrative. Possibly. Again, I'm not an expert at these things. So the county council could offer a per diem. The state says that a per diem, the Attorney General's office says that a per diem is considered compensation. And it exists, it's possible. And if it's possible, you can't do it. Whether you do it or not, you can't do it if it's possible. Something, I guess, maybe not even a point to make here soon. I don't know. Maybe going forward it will be. I'm not trying to keep anybody out of a seat, but I have to follow the letter of the law as I see it. That's what I've agreed to do. That's what the taxpayers put me in here for. Try to do things according to all this. I'd say that needs to be looked at in some sort of. The state couldn't help me on it. They said they've never had the question raised. So if we keep all this and the council decides to give a per diem, it automatically becomes a dual office holding. And it's an office because there are things in the law that gives these people authorities to do things. It's not a job. It's not employment. It's different. It's a position of office. It's an appointment by law. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say other than the fact that I'm just confident that the council should be involved in the economic development department, and nobody else but the council. They created the ordinance to have this. Anything that the commissioners have to do with the economic development department is granted to them by agreements with the council, period. That's the way I see it. So I don't have anything else to say at this point.
Thank you. Anything else to add?
I think it's all been covered pretty well.
Well, I do have some recommendations coming back to the interview process. I would like to see, and we should ask for, a list of publication sites and billing of those sites or any other billings that they received as far as,
Are you saying for the advertisement? of the
yeah, for the
position?
advertising, yeah. I know you could use ZipRecruiter, Salesforce, GoHire. There's also several EDC association sites that you can advertise on, other than just county email. I'd like to see the number of applications that were filled out and completed. I'd like to know if there was even a job link that you could fill out for an application. And in so doing, what are the minimum and desirable qualifications that were requested? I'd like to see the rubric, the evaluation tool that they used to evaluate all candidates. And I'd like to understand if Doug has received a written job offer with benefits and a starting date. We should have that on file. I also like to know, did the auditor, Auditor 1, send out the email or someone else send out the email? Because all of my emails from Mr. Donovan, Ron, was from rondonovan63@gmail. I can honestly say that the wording, punctuation, and everything else from Auditor 1 was totally different from Ron Donovan 63. That might be of some concern. I also like to state that we all just recently took an oath of office. Some recently, some a few years earlier. It says, support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Indiana, faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge my duties. I'm looking for honesty today, not half-truths.
That's right.
I have questions. I have concerns.
We did receive a letter today. I will read it so that we can be transparent about everything that has been asked of. It says, Vermillion County Council members. This is from current Vermillion County Commissioner President R.J. Donovan and Vice President Misty Hess. It says, the Vermillion County Commissioners support economic development in Vermillion County. If you, the County Council, choose to zero out the budget and dissolve the EDC, we believe that will send the wrong message to anyone and everyone looking at investing, building, or just relocating to Vermillion County. We, the Commissioners of Vermillion County, believe working together is key. Therefore, we are proposing the County Council table any decisions today. In doing so, the Commissioners will call for a joint executive meeting with the County Council immediately, followed by a joint regular meeting within the next 48 hours. By doing so, having a new joint agreement with the right structure in place by the end of the week, we would like to come to an agreement and work together to move Vermillion County forward. While I personally appreciate the willingness to work together, I sincerely wish we could have done this before any of this ever happened. If there was a problem with the joint resolution, it's easy to say now. I know hindsight's always 20/20. But I also, after thinking about this, have concerns of jumping into a new structure by the end of the week. There have been some recommendations sent to us for contacting the state, contacting other counties, taking some educational classes of what economic development really is. And based on those things that we have learned, create a new structure. It is not our desire to take away the complete budget. The reduction today will still allow for things to remain in place. It'll allow, if Doug was hired, to pay him for his time that he was here. It will allow for the rent, utilities, office equipment, things like that. There will still be an office available as soon as something is put in place. So it's not a complete wiping out the department of everything at this moment. Does anyone else have any thoughts on tabling today's decisions? And
If there was questions or concerns about the I-74 project, I would assume there may be comments or concerns about that today. Have we considered, or do we have options on the table? Can we discuss that part of it, or at least ideas? Or?
absolutely. I'm sure there are some concerns over that. So previously, when the last employee of economic development left, we only had one. She left in November? I'm not sure. After that, there was a temporary contract signed with, I want to butcher her last name, Lana Urizazi. I'm sorry, Lana. With BCS Management. She's been involved with the county with current economic development projects for the last year or even longer. She's aware of current issues and has the knowledge, experience, and expertise. She can proceed with the economic development operations immediately. She's also attended many of the redevelopment commissions where a lot of our current projects are taking place. So she has the background and the knowledge if we were wanting to find someone that could fill in until then. She actually had a contract that Commissioners Yoakum and Luther had signed to operate economic development in the place that we had no director or assistant. So it would be reinstating essentially that. The redevelopment commission budget has current funds that they could immediately use. If they held a meeting, they could potentially sign a contract with her again to continue on the operations. That can be done fairly quickly since an additional appropriation would not have to be advertised. Redevelopment Commission is separate from economic development. It is funded with the same fund that economic development is. However, they're not dependent upon each other.
Okay. I'd also like to add an email, and I'll not read everything from Ron Mack dated January 6th, but item number 12, Ron mentions, there are executive marketing firms already in the know who have relationships and can reach markets it would take a local person years to establish. Why not discuss options with these folks? It sounds like this is an option.
She's well established.
Well
for sure.
established. Okay.
So that is something that could be done in place if needed.
I have some questions.
Okay.
RJ Donovan, could you come and answer some of these questions that I might have?
Well, Rick, it's going to be a Q&A with the whole board. I'm not going to be subject to just a few questions and may not be able to ask questions back to the council. So if not, I'd like to reserve that after the meeting. I know there's a public hearing for the reduction of appropriations today. So I would like to reserve that till the end, unless it's going to be an open Q&A.
So can I just ask you a couple, 3 questions?
I ask Rick, unless it's going to be an open Q&A that I can ask questions to the entire council, I think it's a disservice to the people that took off work today to be here for the reduction of appropriations.
Do we have a problem?
Nope.
Feel free to come up. Would you like to ask your questions first?
No, go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. Question with decision making. Thank you, Misty. We made a decision to remove the existing council. What was it called? Coalition. All right, excuse me. Can you explain the decision-making process in rescinding that?
Yeah,
so I can better understand that.
Yeah, at that meeting, the commissioner had discussed putting it back
outside the commissioner's purview. And as my discussion with Ashley James today, the commissioners still believe, the majority of commissioners still believe that we should not oversee economic development in Vermillion County. Per discussions with Ashley today, we're willing to put together another joint resolution with you guys. We don't know what that board looks like, whether it's a 3, 5, 7-member board. Ashley had indicated not a 3, but we're open to that. But at the end of the day, Rick, we just don't want to oversee economic development. This coalition was in place for, I don't know, over a year. And I know Ashley, you know, had said that the commissioners hadn't hired anybody, and that's accurate. The commissioners hadn't. But that's not all on me either. There was a board of 3. Commissioner Luther more or less didn't want to hire a director. Me and Tim did, but we just couldn't come to an agreement on anything. So.
Okay, so is that opinion or was that an analysis to do away with it?
The commissioners agreed to do away with or opt out of the.
My question
resolution.
is it an analysis or opinion? Did you use a tool that you learned in high school, college, trade school? Did you use the SWOT analysis,
Rick,
the decision
us-
tree? There's several tools out
Yeah.
there that you can use to make decisions.
I understand.
What decision tool did you use?
I would say common sense, Rick, is what we used. You know,
Was
I
it an
think,
opinion or common sense or a tool?
Rick, I just said common sense, is what I
Okay,
said.
use common sense. Okay. So did you seek outside counsel or advice from any individual?
For economic development?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For this decision.
Absolutely. For the last
Misty?
2 years, I'm sure Misty has as well. I know I have. For the last 2 years, I've met people across the state. When you go to commissioners' conferences, you talk to people. I mean, absolutely, Rick. I don't make any decision lightly, if that's what you're asking. Or the Board of Commissioners, for that matter. I don't think Misty Hess here can be bullied or told what to do in anything. I mean, I had to sell my idea of what we wanted to do with economic development and say this is what I believe is in the best interest of the citizens of Vermillion County.
Okay.
Is that all your questions?
I have a few more,
Oh,
but
go ahead.
I would like you to ask yours if you
No,
have.
that's okay. Keep going.
Okay.
That's fine. Keep going.
So my next question, and this probably concerns me more than anything, and I apologize to everyone and to the Hess family, but I have to ask this question. RJ, are you and the Donovan family close friends with the Hess family?
I guess you'd have to describe close family. I'm friends with a lot of people
Okay.
in Vermillion
Does
County.
anyone in your family attend sporting events at South Vermillion with the Hess family?
I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Has your mom or dad attended sporting events with the Doug Hess and family?
I really don't understand this line of questioning, Rick. I mean, I do things. I mean, I could look out in this room here and pick people. I've had lunch with Leonard Akers.
I
Does that
go to
mean?
sporting events with Ashley James.
I mean, what
So
what
we
is
all
the?
go to sporting
So I don't
events
understand
together.
the line
It's
of
North
questioning.
I don't need
Vermillion
I
County.
don't need an answer.
I mean, I really
I
don't
don't need an
understand.
answer.
Well, no, I just want to know what I want
Very
to know what this questioning is from the council. Honestly, can you tell me what the point of it is?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'm waiting.
I don't even want to say it.
Go ahead. Everybody's here listening. Go ahead and say the next question.
Well, I'm concerned about nepotism. I mean, I could go down the line.
Go ahead, finish your full question.
I'm going to end there.
So because you're friends with someone in the county automatically assumes there's nepotism? Is that what we're doing?
I'm concerned if there was only 2 applicants and you chose,
Let's take a step back there real quick before you finish that question.
Okay.
The commissioners didn't choose anybody. The Economic Development Commission is made up of members Bill Reynolds, Ron Donovan, and Randy Dreer, who's also, all 3 are in attendance today. So let's clarify for the record, the county commissioners did not do any of that. All right?
so my question is, what was the vote?
Rick, I didn't attend the meeting.
What was the vote, Ron?
Randy, Bill, could anybody answer that today?
Yeah, I do.
Randy?
All 3 was in agreement prior to going into the main meeting.
Okay.
And then in the main meeting, there was only 2 votes.
2 votes. Okay. There's your answer, Rick.
2 votes for it. How was the votes?
Pardon?
Who voted what? Which way?
That's not my position to tell you that, Rick.
Okay.
You should have been at the meeting.
Bill Reynolds did not vote to hire. I believe he had concerns with structure, is what I was told from him personally.
Okay. That's
And
all I
he's
have
here
to
if
say.
you'd like to.
One thing I'll say about those interviews is, Rick, you've done a real good job with your interview, and so did Doug Hess. Maybe there was only 2. But in my eyes, he had more qualifications, schooling, and all that. than
I
what you
agree.
had. That's
I
why
agree.
I chose him.
I had probably minimal if required, but I never got the qualification. I never submitted a
Order
resume.
this meeting.
I may have never
This meeting's
submitted
out
a
of order.
resume had
Okay.
I had the qualifications. That's all I have.
People are speaking without being noticed of who they are.
Oh, I
We-
apologize. RJ Donovan, Vermillion County Commissioner and taxpayer resident of the county.
Well, that's not,
Well,
thank you.
yeah.
So for the
I'm
record.
President can, I'm not trying to speak for the president, but we
That's
can't
fine.
have people in the audience speaking out without identification
Oh, I understand
and
that.
being called upon.
I understand.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm going to end with that.
Okay. RJ, what questions do you have for us?
Well, I've contemplated a lot of questions today, Ashley, and oh, somebody's phone's ringing there.
I have a question first. Is that all right? Sure. I mean, was the council done asking questions?
I think,
I think Rick was, but if anybody else has
Oh.
any questions?
Well, my question was on the joint resolution that was repealed or rescinded by the commissioners. When you make the statement that the commissioners didn't want to oversee economic development, I don't think that the point of the resolution was that the commissioners now have a job and they have to show up every day and do economic development stuff.
I understand.
That it was said that in section 3 that a director of the coalition shall be appointed by and reports to the commissioners to oversee daily operations. That takes you off the hook, I guess, of everyday operations. And that the coalition may establish policy and employ staff. So hiring people, this is what gave you guys, I say you guys, I'm sorry. This is what gave the Board of Commissioners the authority to do all the things that are being done right now that was gotten rid of. I just want to make that clear, is that when the commissioners say they don't want to be involved in it, and this gave you the ability to not be involved in it by appointing people, hiring people to do that job. But yet the commissioners, you don't want to be involved in it, but you do want to be involved in it in some way, right?
Is that the end of it, Neil, or
Well, I guess my question is, do you want to be involved in it? Because rescinding this kind of makes it look like you don't.
So what the commissioners want at the end of the day is economic development to be impartial from the commissioners. We believe that whether it's Misty Hess standing here, me, or newly Mr. Peebles in the back there, we want it to be separate from the commissioners. No matter who's here, we want economic development to be by itself, have a board of 5, 7 members made up of, we don't care who. Maybe it's members from each township in Vermillion County. Maybe it's a few members from the largest employers. Maybe it's a few elected officials. We don't care. We believe economic development should be independent. And yeah, hindsight is 2020. Maybe the resolution could have been looked at a little different. Maybe it could have been amended. You're right. And as Commissioner President, I'll take blame for that. But what I will say is we're here to move forward as a county, and that's why we are proposing an executive meeting. You mentioned 48 hours may be too quick. That's fine. We're willing to wait. Whatever the council wants to do to move this county forward, the commissioners right now too are in favor of doing so. I'm sure I'll talk to Bill after tonight once he's officially.
and I haven't had a chance to respond to that since we just got it, but we actually cannot have an executive session. There is nothing under the code
Okay,
that
we
would
can
allow it.
a joint meeting then, Straps Executive. I forgot to put that in the email if it fell underneath an IC code. We're willing to work together. We want a board like this, but we're trying to take ourselves out of that picture. And as a department, you're right, the commissioners do have a few currently. The VA officer, maintenance, there's 2 or 3 areas that do answer to the commissioners, but they're very isolated in what they do. The VA only does VA things. Maintenance only does maintenance at the courthouse. So economic development does a broad range of things for this county. And we want to make sure we set it up correctly. Yes, we disagreed with the resolution, and we want to take ourselves out of being the direct reporting head for whoever that director is, whether it's Mr. Hess or whether it's somebody else in the future. So that's why, hence the letter you got today from us, requesting that you guys table this. And I understand you can reappropriate the money, but I think it would be best if we tabled it, work together, and establish a new board, a new resolution. Misty, do you have anything you'd like to add? Say.
I also want to make clear that that the council's not against any particular people. That when this resolution was created, Mr. Hess was a director at that time. And this joint resolution clearly says that the Board of Commissioners are allowed to appoint someone, and that person is currently Mr. Hess.
I understand.
And so we don't have a problem, or didn't have a problem with that. under this agreement. Or just joint resolution rather, not an agreement. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, for sure. What the Board of Commissioners would like to ask today, as stated in the letter, is if the Board of County Council would take a step forward with us, table, or not even have the hearings today, and send a message to Vermillion County that we are here working together, all 10 of us, well, 9 right now, 10 later tonight, and move forward, work together, and create a new joint resolution and structure that everyone can be a part of. I understand you talked about eliminating the 3-member commission, and like Ashley talked, there is bonding power. There are things like that I would like to leave in place, but if you want to eliminate it, go ahead. But I'd much rather table the entire process today and send a clear message to not only this county, adjacent counties, our taxpayers, Illinois, that Vermillion County is open for business, and we are working together, and mistakes and missteps were made along the way. I will take full blame for whatever those are. But I'm not going to dive into, there were some things said earlier today that I'd like to correct as well, but I don't think it serves justice to the county or to moving forward. So I'm full steam ahead, looking ahead, and that's what we would ask and request today, that you guys table these 3 things and we collectively work together for a joint meeting with the commissioners and council where we can, whether it's a week, whether it's 6 days, whether it's 30 days, we will work with each and every one of you to make sure we do this right one and final time.
As I mentioned earlier to you today, as far as not going through with the ordinance and rescinding basically the remaining structure of whatever might be left, it essentially gives us the ability to have a blank slate, to have that meeting, to have that joint structure, to talk it over. Whatever we do at this point, we will have to create a new ordinance to set something up. By us actually approving those today, it gives us that blank slate to start with one document and not have to go back and piece it together from this resolution to this ordinance to this one, and well, that one repealed this one. We need one document that encompasses everything at this point in one spot. And that is essentially what this is doing, is it's creating a clean slate for that new structure.
What we would ask is that, again, it be tabled, let the county and the commissioner's attorney work together and think that, and say that A, maybe they all do need a clean slate like you suggest, or B, maybe one of them can be left in place. I know Attorney Spur had directed us on that ability to delegate our authority. I know you had said earlier about whose authority, what authority. That was our commissioner attorney. We don't do anything without checking with the attorney on stuff like that. So we would prefer to table this, let the attorneys work together and set up this meeting and say, because there may be something that's salvageable out of one of those. I don't know that there is, but I would like to give it that opportunity. And I would just ask that the council please consider tabling all these events today. And
up until the day we've seen this, or you've seen this, you just show a lot of interest in working together, in my opinion.
Kelly, I have attempted to reach multiple council members. I'm probably one of the most available people around. I know I'd called you just as a reference multiple times on the redevelopment meeting that was had, you know. And I understand we're all busy. I'm busy, you know. Mr. Weir's busy, Mr. Bose, Mrs. Furry, we all are. But you have my word here today that this county, these commissioners are ready to work together, move forward, and not take a step back in the county in any way. So, and my word is my bond. So I'm saying it here today in front of you. I'm saying it here in front of the taxpayers of this county.
I have concerns with just letting the budget sit there.
Okay.
Verbal agreements not to spend money, things like that. And I know I stressed those to you, but I wanted to make it public. In the past, when we had verbally agreed to get rid of the council, we didn't make it formal, and then we ended up having trouble later. When things aren't actually in paper and in black and white, it leads for open interpretation sometimes.
Right.
And I don't feel like it's responsible for us, being the fiscal body, to leave money sitting out there that could potentially have that risk. And that's why we did the reduction. And like I said, the ability to bring it back is still there. But are we being responsible with taxpayers' dollars by potentially allowing someone to spend some of it or do this or that, and without having that structure in
Well, I
place?
think as we mentioned on the phone to you, the commissioners are prepared to sign any document. The Economic Development Commission, I spoke with members, they're prepared to sign any document as well. No money will be spent until the commissioners and council agree to a new joint resolution. We can put that in writing. I'm saying it here today publicly. We will not go back on our word.
Did you hire Doug yet or not?
Again, Kelly, the commissioners,
Did anybody hire Doug
it
yet?
is my understanding the EDC commission did hire Mr. Hess.
Then there's already money being spent then.
Was
But-
there a hire date and salary approved at that meeting, I guess?
I wasn't there. I would have to defer to one of the 3 commission members. I have to defer to one of them.
I have one shaking their head no.
I don't know if I can talk or not.
If
Feel
you,
free to come up.
So slide over with me.
because it is a question we need to know if he was formally hired or not.
Ron Donovan, president of the Economic Development Commission. Yes, he was hired. He was hired the following day, actually. We hired him that night.
So at your meeting, you voted to hire
And
him?
he was hired in the budget that was in the 2025 budget that you guys already had. So
Okay.
that was in the 1149.
But I mean, did you
operating budget. Yes,
At your meeting then to give him a hire date?
yes.
You did, and what was his hire date?
Then, we hired him that night.
I would,
When-
I would say
when
the
did he-
following day.
The following day, actually, but he was hired the night of the meeting.
Okay, so he did start work the
Yes.
following day.
The following day, yes.
I'll step back. So again, this was all done with.
I have another question for Ron.
Okay, but follow up on that real quick. Attorney Spur was consulted on all these decisions that was made by the EDC Commission and the commissioners. So no one's out here trying to just do anything quickly or anything like that.
Okay.
So I guess the only thing that I would ask that, yeah, I guess in theory you would have the director that potentially we could work out some agreement on, either you're not going to be paid because we don't know what the structure is going to look like, or,
And our intent was not for that. The actual reduction leaves money in the line items to make sure that that was, whether or not they had the authority to hire him or not, we were leaving money in there to make sure he got paid based on the confusion. So it's,
I believe it was made clear earlier too that the budget in 2025 for economic development was created with the Economic Development Coalition in mind, and therefore once the coalition was ended, the budget therefore doesn't go to it anymore. That's my opinion. So there wasn't a budget in 2025 to hire anybody. I mean, there was if the coalition was in place, but once it was ended, it stops.
that's correct. I mean, at our budget hearings,
We just described that.
the joint resolution was still in place, and that was our understanding of the structure. So that is why that budget did get approved at that time.
I understand. Again, we worked with attorneys on that, or the attorney on that. Another thing that I would say that why I would ask that it be paused is there will be an effect that goes forward about sending this to the DLGF. They'll be reviewing this for 14 days, making their decision on a reduction of whatever that amount is, 333,000, 323,000. And I would just ask that we don't do that, because now people at the state are looking at us going, what's going on in Vermillion County with this? I think we can handle this internally here in the county. I think we can work together. And any of these little issues, I think we can work out between the two boards.
And
At
if
least I
that's
would
the
ask.
case, I feel like if they question it, we do have supporting documentation to show why it was put into place, how it got taken out. And then once we have a new structure, we can support the reappropriation of it. So
I understand. I guess we don't have anything else more to add other than, again, to move forward. I don't want to sit here and get into the weeds on a lot of things, but I want to move this county forward. We have a lot of potential development, and I think us just making time between the 10 of us, having a special meeting and getting this done. I say sooner than later, but if you guys want to wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're open.
I think we're open to that, agreement. We do want to move forward, and we do want to work together. We thought we had achieved that at one point in time, so we do desire that. We just want to make sure we do it right this time. We've had a lot of attempts, and evidently nothing has held over the last several years, and we want to make sure we get it right this time before jumping into something that's
I
not going to work.
understand that. I
again.
just, my big thing is, again, with the state, what is the concern with the money being left? Because that's probably the main concern. Because the ordinances and stuff, I'd like our attorney to work with your attorney to make sure there isn't something that could be left over that maybe works. So the reduction.
But why leave pieces and pieces and pieces? Why wouldn't we take and have one document?
I understand, but I'm not an attorney, and I would like them to work together, the commissioner's attorney and the council attorney, on that before you guys potentially rescind or rescind those today. And the money aspect, again, we told you in this meeting here that you have our word, or we can sign a document that no money will be spent out of that account. So if that's the big concern, you have our word here today that won't happen.
And you have our word that we would put it back as soon as we have structure. So which one do we take?
So let me ask a question. Your word is your bond.
It is, Rick?
Okay. So I need you to be honest. And
Oh,
your word is your bond.
I always am.
The question in January 2nd, at the end of the meeting, had to do with CO2.
Okay.
Did you or have you received monies for your political campaign from someone associated with the CO2 project?
No, Rick, and I've never accepted any funding of any kind.
Okay, let me ask this question.
with
Did you
that.
receive money from Alan Morrison in the amount of $250 for your campaign?
I have not received anything.
I have a document that says that you did.
You can check the CFA campaign finance reports.
I checked Alan Morrison's and it has.
I can tell you this, then I never received anything.
Okay.
There has been no...
Mr. Donovan, I have a question for you,
Well, no,
sir.
I want to finish on this for a second, Rick. I think this has nothing to do with economic development here
No,
today.
you said your word is your bond.
It is.
And you just said it again and again and again.
It is, and
we
I've
have
never-
exception with that.
And I've never accepted money from Mr. Morrison or anybody in my political career of my 9 years in public
Maybe
service.
the information we have is incorrect.
Well, no, or maybe they sent a check, and I mean, I don't know why they would do an impropriety thing like that. But
Okay.
I've never accepted any money of any kind.
I just asked.
I mean, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Rick,
to
did
do
you have
that.
one more question then?
Yeah, I have one for Mr. Ron Donovan, President.
Is there anything else for Commissioner Hess or Donovan?
No.
Anyone? No?
No, I would just like to add, I would like this meeting to remain on topic with economic development here today.
No, your word was your bond. I'm asking, is your word really your bond,
Okay.
or are you honest or
Rick,
dishonest?
Rick, it is.
Let
Okay.
him ask
I
his
mean,
last question and we'll be.
Well, I am,
we'll be
but I
done.
mean, I think this is wrong for you to do that, Rick. I mean, I am taking the high road here as the commissioner, trying not to get in the weeds with you about stuff you've said to me and stuff you've done right in here in this commissioner's courtroom to me a year ago. And I'm not bringing that up because I'm trying to move this county forward, and I would ask you to do the same.
I think that's
Ron?
what we're doing.
I guess my question is there any other expenses that we do not know about? Is there expenses from advertising?
No.
Is there expenses for a signing bonus or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes. All right. Moving on to the next item on our agenda. So if I can find my paper. There we go. All right. Under new business, we have resolution 2025 dash. Is there a number that we? Do we have a number yet?
It's 0 for 2025.
Is 0?
01.
Just one. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the one. I'm half deaf. All right, so it is resolution number 2025-01, reducing appropriations for the Economic Development Fund. This resolution does require a public hearing. So if you would like to make a comment regarding the reducing appropriations for the Economic Development Fund, you are more than welcome to. I ask that you please come to the stand and state your name. And
3 minutes.
yeah, we'll do the standard 3 minutes, I guess. I don't know if anybody will need that long or not, but you may have it if you need it. So this,
3 minutes goes by really quick, just to let you know.
so the public hearing is open, if anyone would like.
Speak fast.
Anyone?
Do you have to call twice?
I don't know. Okay.
No one wants to speak?
No one?
They can't hear back here.
So we have the public hearing is open for comment. If anyone has any comments for resolution number 2025-01, it is the reduction of appropriation for Economic Development Fund. I'll go ahead and read and clarify the whole wording on it in case that brings up any other questions. It says, whereas the Vermillion County Council has determined that it is now necessary to reduce certain appropriations for calendar year 2025 in the Economic Development Fund, and whereas notice was duly given to the public for a public hearing on a proposed reduction appropriation, and a public hearing was held on January 27, 2025. Be it therefore resolved by the Vermillion County Council that the following reduction in appropriations for the current year are hereby approved. It lists every line item in the budget and the reduction approved. It is a total of $291,586 in reduction, leaving a new balance in the Fund 1149, Economic Development Fund, Economic Development Department. A new balance totaling $38,684 will remain. The remaining items will pay for, there is some left for the executive director, group insurance, social security, perf, Medicare, unemployment, life insurance, office supplies, professional services, meals, lodging. There's about 10% left of each remaining budget. Office cleaning, travel, printing, advertising, in case there were some bills that do need paid until we can appropriate a new budget.
Hearing's still open, right?
Yep, it is.
RJ Donovan, County Commissioner, Vermillion County resident, taxpayer. As I briefly stated up here, or maybe not briefly stated a few minutes ago, I would like to see the council either vote down this or table it in its entirety. I think leaving this in there and working together is the best way to go. I just want that put on record for the hearing that I would ask that it be tabled and you guys consider that. And I would like to, at some point today or during this meeting, set a joint meeting with the council before the commissioners leave today, if at all possible as well.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Randy Dreher, taxpayer. I'd just like to, first of all, comment, tell Neil I really appreciate you speaking up because you're the only one we've been able to hear back here. And that was nice.
I'm loud.
So you did good, bud.
My wife.
No, I
tells me
thought
to be
after
quiet.
the election was held in November that you people would come collaborate together and work together for the betterment of the taxpayers out here in this county. And throw your knives away, because I know this has all come about because the people have hard feelings for certain people offices. That's wrong. We were voted in by the taxpayers to take care of them. And I would like to see that continue. Right now, our county's a laughing stock for what's going on, and it's pathetic. As far as the commissioners, you're throwing them on the bus here today, all about this deal. But what happened when the commissions wanted to change the coalition? I wasn't up here in a meeting. There was never a special meeting called. The commissioners did that. And it was legal, right?
Everything we did was done
Pardon?
in a special.
Wasn't everyone, you mentioned every party that was involved in the creation of the coalition, correct?
That was when we discussed like the council, but everything we did was advertised and at public meetings, so it was open to the public on everything.
As far as the money that you're wanting to take and zero out, wasn't the economic development established with the edit tax?
Right, and the edit tax is now morphed into the lit tax, the local income tax. And so it encompasses what was the lit, or the edit, I'm sorry.
So since we're going to eliminate Economic Development Council or Economic Development Commission, whatever, are we going to take and eliminate that tax on the taxpayer? What are you going to do with the money? Maybe you can tell me, Brandon.
Hey, I'd love to do that.
Pardon?
I personally would love to do that.
Okay.
We still see that there's a need for economic development. We just desire the structure so we can financially be responsible for the taxpayers' money and say it's going to this. You know, we
This
have
is the first time in 30 years, though, I've seen the council get involved in economic development.
actually not really, because
seen-
everything that's been signed has been signed by the council.
It
All
was
the
signed, the
documents,
commissioners asked for it,
The commissioners,
and they came to the council and asked you to fund it.
right?
Back in what, 94 or something?
Every ordinance and
1994.
resolution has been signed by only the council, except for the joint resolution that we passed in 2023.
the only names on the documents that created economic development and its resolutions and its coalition, well, the coalition has commissioners' signatures on it because it's an agreement. But all the documents that create the Economic Development Department is only signed by council members. And Title 36 of the Indiana Code only delegates that authority to the council and no one else. So there's no one else that can create an Economic Development Department. It has to be the fiscal body.
Well,
And that's not my
would we be
opinion.
standing here today in this meeting if Ron Donovan wasn't around?
If he what?
If he wasn't here?
I don't even know him.
We are here today because the commissioners rescinded the joint resolution. We wouldn't have been
You've
here.
had problems with Ron Donovan from the get-go, Ashley, and you know
No,
that.
he's had problems with me.
I don't know who had problems, but I do know I was in meetings that you people
That has
bucked in.
nothing to do with it.
I've
The
got
only
problems
reason
with
we
the
are here
department.
today is because the
You what?
commissioners initiated this
You may want to say
discussion.
something.
I said, I have a problem with the department. I've been wanting to get rid of this for like 3 years now. Because if you look back over 30 years, list the results that they've accomplished for us for millions of dollars, taxpayer money. What have they done? Can you name anything major that they've done in 30 years? Can anybody name anything that they've done in the last 30 years of any significance?
National Gypsum, Industrial Park, Vermillion Rise Spec Building.
Vermillion Rise has nothing to do with the county.
Commissioners, my bad.
That has nothing to do with the
But they
county.
got their money from the
Is
county.
it sold yet?
Vermillion Rise.
Okay,
All right, is there
Ray
any other
Rice has
public
nothing to
comment
do with
regarding
this.
the reduction of reducing the appropriations?
Where does the money go back to?
It goes back into the 1149 fund. It just basically is still in the fund. It's just not appropriated to be spent. So it doesn't necessarily leave that fund. It's still sitting there. It just can't be spent unless we authorize it to be spent again.
And that comes from an additional appropriation, which happens at nearly every council meeting. Last month's meeting, or I'm sorry, January's meeting this year didn't have any, which surprised me. I don't think I've ever
In
seen.
essence, it's the same thing that happens at the end of the year. If a budget is not spent, it goes back into the fund. And then at the beginning on January 1, we reappropriate money back into the budget. It's the same effect, but essentially it's taking the money, putting it back in like savings account. And then once we have an established budget again, we can do the additional appropriation. And so that money then doesn't necessarily have to be asked to be spent. It could just be spent on those individual line items. It's still there. It's just not being allowed to be spent.
Nash, I did have one last thing as well. I don't know if I used all my 3 minutes for the public comment. RJ Donovan, County Commissioner, Taxpayer President of Vermillion County. Kelly, to answer your question, I served on the Economic Development Council when it was kind of in its, you can say, messed up state, right? 11 members, 12 members. And I can think of multiple projects. Now, they may not be as big as Mr. Majors, like National GISIM or some of the Clinton projects, but just to name some of the small projects economic development done, and this has been 5-6 years ago, they funded multiple parks when they needed equipment. They loaned out money to, whether it was St. Bernice, and I may paraphrase here, St. Bernice, Dana, multiple small towns when they needed money, right? So I think that's a big one, and even if that's the only thing they do in 30 years, I think that's a win to help one of our small towns.
Really?
I honestly
For a
do.
cost of millions of dollars.
If that's the only thing they do, absolutely. But it's not the only thing, Kelly. That's what I'm saying. That's not the only thing. But if it was, I would support it. Furthermore, I'm sure you probably traded some of our small businesses here in the county. Thompson's T-shirts, for instance. Now, I'm not going to, before I get into all these, I will preface this with saying not every small business loan given was a success. Back from Dylan Riggin to intern director Lynn Brewer to Doug Hess. There had been some failed loans. However, the Small Business Revolving Loan Fund was designed to help small businesses that could not get loans a traditional way, just like the Thrive, I think those are the Thrive Spark Loan Revolving Fund, right? Bill, I mean, it has lowered expectations than a traditional bank. So we were just ahead of the curve in economic development when Mr. Riggin was here. You know, Thrive created it a couple years ago. Dylan created it 5 or 6 years ago. But you can look at businesses like Jerry's Restaurant in Clinton. I think it was a $50,000 or $60,000 loan.
You can't legally say
You're not
names.
supposed to be.
Well, okay, we have multiple businesses in Vermillion County that received those loans. Okay, and they are prospering in this county. And I am glad that economic development, where it was the council, where it was the commission, whoever you want to call it, I consider that a win for Vermillion County.
When I was in business, I'd just go to the bank to get my money, and it didn't cost the taxpayers a dime.
Well, and Kelly, that's great that you were able to get that loan, but unfortunately, some of these small businesses, they're in a tight spot, or they just don't meet the requirement. I mean, if you've been to banks lately, they've tightened the ropes on everything, you know. So I think if the county can help with that and get their money back plus a little interest, what's the county losing? You know, but,
Who's overseeing all this? I mean, I'm not a bank loan officer. Who's overseeing the
well, at the time,
administration of these loans?
at the time, it was the director and the boards. At the time, I mean, when I served on that board of 11, it was Mr. Riggin.
You got a repo person, somebody repo?
Well,
equipment
I
or
tell you,
something?
they did put stuff, had their attorneys draw up documents where they took stuff as collateral. Absolutely.
That makes me nervous.
Well, I mean, they definitely had that stuff, and they dotted all their I's and crossed their T's.
That
But
is-
anyway.
Can we see all this
What a
stuff?
what a bank
I'm
say?
sure
What
you
was like
can. I don't know
first
where it's
say
at,
about this?
but I mean, I'm sure there's documentation in the
Maybe
EDC
moving
office.
forward, we should maybe look at that.
We
stuff.
actually added funding to the small business loan program. I don't know. Yeah, but we did do an additional appropriation for it. I don't think any loans have been given out recently, although I know when I spoke with Amanda before, she said she sent 6 or 7 applications out
Yes.
and never got any back either.
Sure,
So
but anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
And
I
I'm
do
not
believe
against
there's-
small business. That's my dream someday to have a small business. It really is. And
Well, if the
it's the
loan gets-
backbone of America. Small business
Yeah.
is the backbone
Well,
of America.
well, if the
but
loan-
I don't know how I want to be involved
Yeah.
in the loan operation.
Well, if the loan gets, if the revolving loan gets revived, you can go, if you meet the criteria, you can
Yeah,
go
I don't
apply
know.
for a loan.
I don't have a plan.
All right.
So I would like to say,
Do we need
sorry,
to keep it open to the other people?
I'd like to say I do think economic development is essential to the county. From being on the school corporation side and trying to finance our schools and everything else, we need commercial and large industrial. They create wealth, creates capital investment, it's creation of business and attraction of business. It's essential for this county to grow in order to maintain our quality of life currently that we now have. Otherwise, I know for a fact our community school systems are, they're decreasing in population. If we can't support the cost of the schools, the expenses, we'll no longer have schools in this county, or we'll be combining schools from 1 to 2, or from 2 to 1. That concerning, I'll say, for both sides, the north and the south end. We need it, but it has to be structured and it has to be run properly. We cannot waste what monies we do not have. I'm not in favor of moving forward with this existing contract. I'm in favor of going outside, seeking professional help, seeking people that have contacts, not from within the county, but from outside the county, from Indianapolis, Chicago, someplace else. Those are the people that have the experience and the qualifications. We've messed around for 30 years and we've not succeeded. If we're going to do it, let's do it right.
any other? Yep.
How y'all doing? John Michael Major, former council president. What you guys are doing here is just beyond ridiculous. I've been getting contacts from people around the state in Indianapolis saying, what in the hell is going on in Vermillion County? I don't think you guys understand how embarrassing that is. We're the laughing stock of the state. We cannot get our shit together.
It's
To
not
quote
this
everybody,
council's
it's a
fault.
shit show.
It's not this council's fault.
Let me talk.
You may talk.
And what we're doing here, it's just crazy. We might as well get a sign and say Vermillion County is closed.
Is this
We don't want any business.
Is this regarding the actual
Yes.
reduction?
Let me speak. We don't want no business. We don't want no jobs. We don't want no money. That's what you're saying to the business community.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You guys can live in your own bubble, but I am telling you, this is a disaster waiting to happen. You are never going to get any businesses to come here. You're never going to get another executive director, and you're not going to get anybody to want to work here that knows what they're doing. Now, you got a man here who's worked in the state of Indiana, for the state of Indiana, Okra. He knows these grants. He knows the system. He's worked for universities. I don't know what more you guys want. He's worked all over the state.
Did you write the emails that I've read? Did you write any emails that got sent to us? It sounds just exactly like the same
No, Neil,
information.
I come up and I look and see what you guys are doing. Thank God for Eric Jones putting stuff out on Facebook, letting everybody know what's going on, because we don't have a
We're
local
not hiding
newspaper
anything.
anymore.
We did not hide a thing.
I'm
Our
not-
meeting
I
was
didn't say you're
actually
hiding
advertised
anything.
at our last meeting.
I didn't
so.
say you're hiding anything.
Oh,
I
well,
said
you
thank
act
God
like
for
it.
him that everybody knows what's going on.
I just asked, did you give the commissioners the same speech? Because we are here because of what they did at their meeting.
Did
We didn't cause
you
this.
speak to them?
I just want to know, make sure it's fair, because you're placing the blame on us,
You guys are
and we are
defunding
dealing with the problems that
economic
they
development.
created.
You guys have created this problem.
No, they did away with it.
We had a solution in place.
Well, then you two need to act like adults and work together and get this done,
That's what we're asking for.
because this is getting ridiculous.
And that's the reason why I suggested we need to go outside this county, just as you said, we need to go to Indianapolis.
Here's a
You
sign for it.
suggested it too.
Vermillion County's closed for business. That's right. That's what we're saying to the state of Indiana.
That is not correct, sir.
Well, you can
probably the
personally
reason
give
we're
them
not
my
on this
phone
council
number and my
anymore.
name.
Time's up. Time's up.
28 seconds.
Well, my book is over.
You can personally give them my name and number if they have questions, and I will happily explain anything and everything they need.
My name's Jeff Turner. I'm a landowner in Highland Township. And I just want to comment to the board, I think you should go ahead with what you had planned on your agenda to reduce. And to this gentleman, the other gentleman, they talk about truth, right? There hadn't been truth on the north end, I can tell you that. Nothing was truth about the redevelopment. So when you get to that, if that's going to be a discussion, I want to know what umbrella that falls under. Does it fall under here? Does it fall under the commissioners? But, and this really doesn't have to do with the redevelopment team. They were trying, I understand. But as landowners up there, you know, we got one meeting postponed so we could get people there. Unaware that you're gonna take up to 39% of Highland Township and put that land into an EDA. 39%. They don't want, the people that live up there don't want it. I kept going on and on. Why don't you reduce it? Why don't you run the sewer line? They can run it across Mr. Hicks's ground, run it down there where they want to go. All right? Have NDOT do what they want to do. But erase the EDA. You're worried about TIF monies. Don't worry about TIF monies. Just worry about people earning a living, paying their taxes. We pay our property taxes. Okay? I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. To answer your question, redevelopment commission is created by the commissioners.
And that's what I thought, but they appoint them, right?
It is appointed by the council and the commissioners.
So did the commissioners vote on this last resolution that passed?
Yes, they voted on it.
They did vote already?
They already did.
No rush job there, since that was just, I mean, the committee voted on it. What about the commissioners?
Yes, they voted before the committee.
Of course.
No. It's 3 commissioners, 2 council.
Yeah, I just want you to understand that my name's Kevin Harry, and I support what Mr. Turner had to say.
Okay.
I really do. I do not know why there has to be so much of the northern part of the county sanctioned off for this developmental. And another concern that I have, a lot of the people that live farther south are going to have to pay taxes. How much money is going to leak down to the south part of the county? I don't know. But thank you for giving me a time to speak my word. And I would like to see a smaller chunk of the township reduced down. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call for public hearing. All right.
Is that for council discussion?
Well, the public hearing is now closed on resolution 2025-01. All right. So, if this resolution is to be adopted, I would need a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments?
The resolution 2025-01 leaves everything in place. It's been agreed to today that nothing exists as far as an agreement between the commissioners or the council for the establishment of an economic development department operation. As of right now, it still exists, but this budget was set up for a coalition. It doesn't exist anymore. We're not eliminating the budget, we're reducing it. Everything still stays there. As everyone's well aware of, this council is fully capable of adding money to things at times through additional appropriations. It's not very hard. It happens all the time. So that money, or whatever money is necessary to fill these line items back up, can be placed in there at any point in time. I think it's irresponsible of the council to leave money in these line items that aren't going to be utilized because nothing exists for their utilization. That's my opinion on the matter. It's straightforward. It's not about economic development. This is just about a budget with a bunch of line items in it and a bunch of money assigned to it. So are we going to leave the money as it is and say, well, we're not going to spend any, just we won't promise? Or are we going to remove it and leave what's in there necessary to operate what we're required to do, and then once a decision is made, we can refund it? Refund it meaning replace the money as needed. I don't know how much, maybe we don't even need $330,000 next month. I don't know. But that's my point, is that it's not shutting the county down. It still exists.
Is that a motion, Neil?
I'll make a motion for the council to pass resolution number 2025-01 for an adopted amount of $330,270 to be reduced to a new appropriation amount of $38,684, until which point in time some sort of agreement for economic development can be agreed upon, and that at that point we'll rediscuss it. But I have a motion to accept resolution 2025-01.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion for Mr. Costello, a second for Mrs. Furry, to adopt resolution number 2025-01, the reducing appropriations for the Economic Development Fund. The reduction approved would be $291,586, leaving the new appropriation amount of $38,684. Is there any further discussion? All right, being no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. Resolution is approved. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 2025-02. It is dissolving the Vermillion County Economic Development Commission, the Vermillion County Economic Development Department, and the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition. I will read it so that way everyone is aware of what it says. Whereas the Vermillion County Council is dissatisfied with the direction and management of economic development in the Vermillion County. Whereas because of this dissatisfaction, the Vermillion County Council wishes to dissolve the Vermillion County Economic Development Department, Vermillion County Economic Development Commission, and the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition. Be it therefore ordained by the Vermillion County Council that 1. County Council Ordinance number 94-2, dated May 9th, 1994, creating the Vermillion County Economic Development Department and Commission is hereby repealed and revoked, and the Vermillion County Economic Development Department and the Vermillion County Economic Development Commission, established therein under the provisions of Indiana Code 36-712, are now dissolved and under their authority terminated. Number 2, Joint Resolution number 2023-05, dated May 8th, 2023, establishing the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition, is hereby repealed and revoked, except as provided below, and the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition is now dissolved and their authority terminated. 3, all provisions of Joint Resolution number 2023-05, dated May 8th, 2023, dissolving the Vermillion County Economic Development Council shall remain in full force and effect. 4, any loan agreements or similar obligations that are currently outstanding, wherein the Vermillion County Economic Development Commission, Vermillion County Council, or the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition is a party, shall be administered, set over, and assigned to the county. 5. All prior resolutions or ordinances or parts of ordinances or resolutions that are inconsistent with the provisions of this ordinance are repealed to the extent of such inconsistency. This essentially gives us the blank slate of no remaining ordinances in place, so we don't have pieces here and pieces there. Whatever we do at this point, we will have to adopt something new anyways, so it would be in one document going further if this ordinance is passed.
And to approve this, we have to do it unanimously.
Yes, in order for this to pass on the 1st, it has to be a unanimous vote. So if there is any opposition, it will be read again at the next meeting.
So this in no way hinders the redevelopment.
Redevelopment is completely separate. Everything that this ordinance is referring to is done by the council. The redevelopment commission is done by the commissioners.
Okay.
It's separate.
The original 94-02 was created 1994 by the council at that time because there was an agreement among commissioners, council, people in the public. There were some citizens groups, I believe, from what I've read. I wasn't there. I think I was in college. I don't know. I wasn't here. But anyway, it was created because there was a need, a perceived need to have this, and it was done. I don't think it's that, it wasn't hard to create the ordinance and pass it, I suppose, but there was probably a lot of work that went into it prior to the creation of it. Maybe several years worth, I don't know. Again, I wasn't here at the time. But it was structured, 94-02 was structured by following Indiana Code 36712-1 through 29, I guess. And I guess my question, and maybe is a legal question, I may ask the council's attorney, does economic development, if a county chooses to do economic development or have economic development department or structure or whatever, does it have to be set up according to Indiana Code 36712 and all of its chapters, or is that an open, can you do it however you want? 9402 was set up that way. It said you must have a department and a commission, and you've read it.
In my opinion, Neil, I think that the commissioners and the council could decide, as they did with the resolution a few years ago, to have a structure for economic development that encompasses whatever you think it should encompass. The city of Terre Haute has an economic development commission. Vigo County has an economic development commission, an economic development department. They're not really running economic development. They exist, but they have directors who work outside of or contract with the county, Vigo County, other places. Set things up very differently.
So there's a lot of ways to do it. This is just one.
There is no one size fits all thing to it. When the commissioners created the redevelopment commission, they created a department of redevelopment at the same time. Those two things go. Whenever you create the commission, you create the department. But that's never been staffed or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that you can't have a coalition or some other form like you've had before that just says, okay, we're going to have a lead person for economic development or lead organization for economic development, and we'll help fund that, and we can appoint somebody to it, or commissioners, however you guys decide that you want to do it.
94
if you do want to create, now, economic development commissions do have a place, they do have a role, okay, that they can the only person who can issue economic development bonds is an economic development commission. The only person who can approve certain kind of tax abatements, you have to have the blessing of an economic development commission. Their industrial revenue bonds are something economic development commissions can only do. Nobody else can do those. I happen to see the agenda for the Terre Haute City Council tonight. They are doing economic development bonds that are being done through the auspices of their city economic development commission. So in the right kind of project, you do need a commission. and you may need one at some point in Vermillion County to do certain things.
So the commission exists because of the law.
Yeah,
The
you said it when you read the purpose. It's if the council finds that it's necessary to finance certain kinds of public improvements or pollution control. It's a financing vehicle to finance certain kinds of improvements.
So if we eliminate 94-2, we may well find ourselves creating 2025-2 tomorrow or something. Just to, it may look, because I mean, if you look at 94-2, it's very short. It's a very small ordinance. There's not much to it. It just says we want economic development, so do we, be it ordained, and you sign here and we sign, everybody signs. It's very simple. So if we eliminate it, are we just going to create another one? Or that's what the discussion will be. We don't know. It doesn't have to be this way. I think what I just learned was that there are some things that an EDC commission must be available for. I don't know what those things are in detail. There are resolutions associated with this that we don't like. It creates councils and joint resolutions, and nobody likes those. So we got rid of all that. This would get rid of all that. The commissioners have already said no more joint resolution. Our version of this says no more joint resolution and no more all these other things. So just to be clear, I'm just trying to be very clear about what this actually is saying. But I'm also trying to point out that, and I've just thought of this at this meeting, was that, a new ordinance to move forward may look a lot like 94-02. It might be almost identical. And then at that point, other things come from that.
It could, but you said some counties do not have commissions, correct?
I don't know. I know Vigo County has one. I went to one of the meetings one time. It's the first time they'd met in like 7 months.
They don't run the economic, but they don't actually run the department.
No, they do not.
Okay.
I know it's conflating. It's easy to conflate the concept of an economic development commission being in charge of economic development, but that is not necessarily have to be the case because their powers are really limited to certain kinds of loans and bonds. And so
you said financial.
It is again, if the council finds that it's necessary to finance public projects, that's what the purpose of a commission is. And I think that that's why at some point we had a council that came into play in Vermillion County that did broader things. And it's up to you guys what you want to do entirely. So but we have had some dysfunction, it seems to me, in economic development and who's in charge.
Yeah. We have used we did use the commission to issue financial instruments once, and
then we ended up not needing that.
And then but that was.
Then we ended up not needing that. Actually, we went a different way. But that is what. And there are certain things. There are certain kind of tax abatements when the target decides it wants to build in Clinton.
The target.
And they want a tax abatement. They would have to go through the commission to get declared target area, which is a weird thing. But it's a. You very well may find yourselves either, you can either let the commission continue, or you can wipe it clean, and start over. That's entirely up to you guys what you want to do. To recreate an economic development commission department, you would simply need to adopt a new resolution or a new ordinance, excuse me. But hopefully that might be done in conjunction with some agreement with other county officials as to how this is going to be structured and what the responsibilities of that.
Let me ask
that office might be.
Another question. Ordinance 94-02 being that it's regulated by Indiana Code 36, etc. Indiana Code 36-712-4 specifically gives the fiscal body of a unit the authority to create the ordinance. If we don't do something that looks like 94-02, if we do something different, or what controls that one then?
It's home rule.
Yeah, it's home rule. Okay.
Follow into the home rule concept.
Okay, so you no longer are associated with state codes or whatever. It would be, so if we come up, if we said, no more of this, and we have a completely new view, maybe it's one everybody wants and it's great. It could be our own decision making. At that point, How about taxes? You know, it like the ability for the council to impose taxes for the original 94-02 came from the fact that it had established 94-02. In the future, does that affect, you know, if we don't follow the Indiana code and establish our own home rule design, does it affect the council's ability to say, impose a tax? I'm not asking to, I don't want no more taxes myself, but I'm just saying, does it give you, is there authority lost with the ability to pay for it? Obviously there would be.
I mentioned this to most of you before, but at one point edit was limited, the use of edit was limited to economic development. That was changed, and it now can be used for any governmental purpose.
Okay.
So
I'm going to repeat that so they hear it. Originally, the edit could be used for specific purposes, the economic development income tax, but it has since changed, so that is not the case anymore.
Any governmental purpose.
You can use it for any governmental purpose.
That's why, I mean, I don't even know, predates my council attorney tenure. The county, our county has used half of edit to pay for highway, and we still do. So the council can direct that edit tax money to whatever appropriations it wants. And that would be whether it's a home rule situation or the new commission, if you form a new commission, or the existing commission, if you leave the one here. It's up to you guys what you want to do with that.
In terms of the ability for a county to raise funds to fund economic development, creating a new ordinance that looks just like 9402 wouldn't give us any more authority above and beyond what we have now, say. There's nothing else in this that's special or...
There are certain kinds, there's only, other than those things that only a commission can do.
Sure, which you mentioned, yes.
That's the only thing you would have to have one for. I don't even know, I've been city attorney for 20 years, 25 years, I don't even know now. The city of Clinton has an economic development commission on the books. I see that sometimes when I look through the ordinances. Nobody even knows, like, I don't know who's on it. I don't know, what did we do that for? I don't know, nobody even knows. It just
does it have a budget?
No, it doesn't. But you know, it is. I tried to look up some information about Vigo County's Economic Development Commission and the City of Terre Haute's Economic Development Commission. I actually couldn't find any online, and I didn't do like a exhaustive search. But when you Google it, what you find are things like the Vigo County Economic Development Corporation, which really is the entity that does it, or the Redevelopment Commission, which does a lot of that stuff too. So they have a structure. I mean, there is no. I don't know that there is every other county for Vermillion County. Every county, I know Park County has a outside entity that they contract with that does it.
Park County does?
Park County does. I was in Cass County recently. They have a director of development and redevelopment who works directly under the commissioners and council. That's who she reports to. So there's
like Park County, for example, and it's up to them, but they choose, there's entirely separate from itself. They farm it out completely to, I don't know if that's the right term.
But then the elected officials are on her board to advise her.
Okay, so it's all how you want to do it.
Which is similar to the way Vigo County is.
I wouldn't know. Honestly, I have no idea what goes on the other side.
If you ever walk in there and see an Economic Development Commission, you've seen a rare bird.
You've seen a rare meeting?
Yes. I was there and they were approving the minutes from the last meeting. It was like 7 months ago.
Wow.
I've never seen one.
Okay. All right, so we do have ordinance number 2025-02 in front of us. Any other discussion?
There has to be other discussion.
Yeah. It's pretty clear.
Is there any action to be taken place on this today?
I believe I'm under the impression maybe point number 1, County Ordinance number 94-2 dated May 9th, 1994 maybe should remain. And the joint resolution point 2 and 3 and maybe 4.
I would disagree. I think we just need to start with a clean slate.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out for discussion.
Whatever we do, whatever we come to terms with the commissioners, there's going to have to be a new ordinance put in place.
Understand.
So if those are things that we still wish to bring back, we can add them at that time. but
So it's not so muddy.
it's not
Just clear it
necessarily
up.
getting rid of them forever if
Right.
need be.
If
But
we
if
get-
not, you're still gonna have documents here, 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 and here. So,
I understand.
So if we come up with a new agreement, which I assume we will, it only makes sense to in some fashion, then therefore at some point, this has to be, 9402 has to be repealed. It can't exist with another ordinance. You would have two different methodologies of providing economic development that may or may not agree. That'd be worse. Only thing worse than not having a plan is having two plans.
True.
I
So,
agree.
so the likelihood of 94-2 being completely eliminated at some point in time, whether today or next week or next month, is probably high.
it could be. I mean, it just depends
Doesn't-
on what we come to terms with
Right.
the commissioners.
The rest of the things in their joint resolution, that's already been, I've been told that's already a done deal. That's out because you have to have two people to agree to it, and only one does. So
I want to clean that up, Neil, partly because, just to join in that.
I agree.
Make it clear, but the other part of that, that is also the document that repealed, or that got rid of the Economic Development Council.
right.
So we wanted to be clear about that part. We
Yeah.
still want to get rid of that.
And that was, I brought that up in my email
Yeah,
to
'cause-
RJ, was that I felt like we need to be involved in our half of that too.
And I think the commissioners probably intended that as well when
Yeah.
they repealed that ordinance, that they did not want to revise.
Well, it was
the
kind of,
council.
it was sent to me as kind of like, well, I guess you can if you want. Doesn't really matter. So,
Well,
but it does.
If you repeal the thing that killed the other thing, does that mean the other thing came back to life?
I don't
Zombie?
agree
Is
that that would be
kind
the
of
case.
situation? I don't
No.
know.
That's
I
some of the
can't-
questions that.
And I asked that too. I've asked that.
It basically
'cause-
sounded like the council came back when they repealed their joint resolution, and ours is stating that the council is not coming back, and
That's, it would
so.
wipe out, it would it's clarifying that the council still is.
This ordinance takes care of any remaining pieces of anywhere that, so, okay. It's a clean slate. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-02.
Okay.
Starting over.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Somerville, a second from Mr. Bose to approve ordinance 2025-02, the dissolving the Vermillion County Economic Development Commission, the Vermillion County Economic Development Department, and the Vermillion County Economic Development Coalition. Is there any further discussion?
All I can say is that there are portions of this ordinance that have already occurred, essentially.
Yes,
That it's already happened.
that's correct. On the other side of the joint resolution.
And as far as resolutions, all the other resolutions, they were taken out by the joint resolution being taken out. So that's just to be clear.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things. There's 7 or 8 things here. Or maybe not that many, but maybe.
We definitely have a muddy mess.
Yeah.
We're trying to clean it.
It's unclear.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yes, in the interest of moving forward in Vermillion County, I do suggest we get with the commissioners as soon as appropriate per advertising and everything else,
Okay.
and have this session that we're discussing here and start moving forward as
Agreed.
quickly as possible.
All right.
Yep.
I have a motion from Mr. Somerville, a second from Mr. Bose. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. Ordinance number 2025-02 is approved. And Rick, to your point, I think that is a good idea that we schedule a meeting. Is there any thought, there are a couple of items that need to be taken care of. One is the small business loans. I would like to see the council be in charge of those files until we can determine our next steps forward. Those are highly confidential files. So wherever the key to those files may be, if they can return those to the council. So that way, if we choose to do an audit of those files to maintain the current status of them, we can do that.
And I suggest we appoint somebody to review those files, whether it's our attorney or whatever, but I would suspect some of them are delinquent and haven't been followed up on, / we may need to take other appropriate measures to recover what funds we can.
Is there any recommendation? I know I mentioned Lana earlier, to reinstate her contract. Is that something that we would like to see?
Yes.
Yes.
I know I have questions I'd like to have answered. There may be others that have questions that you'd like to have answered. It'd be, I think, wise for us to have a contract or something with her understanding.
To formally, I guess, make that recommendation, I would entertain a motion then to allow the redevelopment commission to use their current funding in their budget, just so we basically give our blessing for them to spend their professional service money on that, just as a formal approval, so that way it's in the minutes, if that's the case.
I'd like to make that motion as stated.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay.
Is that something that can be done?
Yeah, they have money in their budget they haven't used yet, so they are able to use that budgeted money for professional services to pay Lana if that's the case.
So my understanding is Vermillion County is not closed, it is open for business.
Yeah. She's actually was doing it before January 2nd, so it's basically the same person that we've had doing things since
Over a year.
Well, she's been over there for well over a year with redevelopment, but single-handedly she was doing whatever we needed once Amanda left. Okay. So, all right, I have a motion from Mr. Bowes, a second from Mrs. Furry. Weir. Sorry, I said that. I wrote down the wrong name. I have a motion from Mr. Weir, a second from Mrs. Furry, to recommend the redevelopment commission use their current budget to rehire Atlanta for economic development purposes as needed. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, state no. Motion is carried.
We haven't settled on a date to meet for.
No.
Can we propose a meeting date?
We can propose one. We can see if they're available. We can toss some dates around and see what sticks.
Why don't we propose a couple meetings and then let them choose?
Okay. You have dates in mind?
I do not believe they have a meeting on Monday, February 3rd.
No, be Tuesday. But I believe
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Bill's off work Tuesday, right? Yeah. We'd have to check, but I mean, I would assume Tuesday. If you want to say anywhere between Tuesday and Wednesday, we can check our schedule. I don't have my calendar in front of me right now either. But I know for this meeting at 6 o'clock, around that would probably be ideal in any kind of meeting.
So I'd say February 2nd, or 3rd, whatever we can get done.
As soon as possible.
You want us to
You don't have to get public notice for this?
President then on the meeting day, once we confirm our schedule.
I mean, you need to have some time then to check it.
Maybe like till this evening, maybe just to confirm with all three of us, what they discuss for all three of us.
Okay. And then once a date is selected, we can notify the auditor's office to make sure that it gets put on the county website calendar. Is that okay? So that way everyone can check it. We're thinking the first week of February though, sometime, to give everyone an idea of where to look.
Next week is good for us.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just let us know what time. All right, so a joint meeting will tentatively be scheduled for the first week of February. Notification will be on the county calendar as soon as that date and time can be selected.
Who's going to advertise that, or once we determine?
We're going to send it to the auditor's office so they can put it on the county website.
Is there any special advertising requirements?
48 hours.
48 hours. So as long as we determine within the next couple of days, we'll be fine. All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
No second.
Oh, sorry, I did. We skipped right over that. Public comment. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry
Rescind
about
that
that. I want to
motion.
get out here as quickly as everybody else does as well. RJ Donovan, County Commissioner, resident taxpayer from Vermillion County. For the joint meeting, once we get that scheduled, I think it'd be prudent to have we already kind of have an email chain going. If everybody wants to throw their ideas on that before that meeting on so that when we get to the meeting, maybe we can already have some ideas of what we think, whether it's combining ordinances, resolutions, whatever, the structure, boards, whatever that looks like. And then second topic, away from economic development, I know there's some people here that from the I-74 corridor that really stress public notification of like the redevelopment meetings and stuff. And I share those same concerns with you guys, and I've shared those with a lot of people, and I've shared it with a few council members, but I want to make it like official today that there is a proposal that I've sent to a few of you. It's called TextMyGov. It's a system that could be used by all county agencies, councils, auditors, sheriff's department, whoever. The public would sign up just like NDOT does, and you would send out notifications for meetings, whatever you want. It's an X amount of cost a year. They have asked to do like a public, not a public, but a, what do you want to call it? A Zoom call with anybody interested, so I would like to ask if the council would entertain maybe attending that, or any elected officials in the county, to see if it's a system we would like to use as mass notification. There also is another system called Reach Alert, same type of system, except for they do email as well as texting.
Sounds like a lot of technology.
Well, it is, but we don't. I mean,
We've
bless
just been
Eric's,
over that too.
well,
you know.
bless Eric's heart. You know, he does the best he can to notify the public. But this
I
would
will
be
say, like, we were at that meeting the other night. Penny had mentioned that APC was going to start putting signs out so that way people who were driving through the area, and that seemed to have a good reception with some of the people that later
oh, for
commented.
sure, yeah.
And so I'll be interested to see how that works out, if that, seems to be a good method, because not everyone, I mean, it's hard to reach everybody at any
Yeah.
time.
Well,
But
this
if you're
would be-
driving in that area where you're living, that might be
Well, this was not only for redevelopment, or not redevelopment, but zoning. Anybody, that way the county could take a proactive approach to
What's the cost to it?
notification. I can send the proposal, Kelly. I want to say it's like $5,000. Ashley, do you remember off the top of the head?
It was more to start with, but then it was only included 75,000 messages. Anything more than that, you had to add more.
Yeah, so like 6,500 up front.
They told me.
And it would
Per
take,
year?
yeah, well, up front, I don't know per year. I don't know what, I'd have to look back at the proposal, but it would take a while to build the following. But the idea is, like special meetings like this, if you were subscribed to it, you would automatically get sent a message about that. So, and I know we have a lot of community members complain about notification of meetings. There's not really much you can do other than like the Tribune Star. Where do you advertise your additionals at? There's no place to advertise.
No, we have to put it
Have
in
to
a
do it.
public.
I know you do, but I'm saying though locally, so. But anyway, that's.
Leonard,
all I
you
got.
got a
3
question?
minutes are up, I'm sure.
Oh, hold on.
You might take advantage of some free possibilities for advertising. It's not much, but it's something. There's a digital sign at Western Avenue at 9th Street that's open for anybody to put something up. You can post meetings and stuff on there, and that's free of charge. Because everybody in the county, at one time or another, goes to Walmart, then they come back down the hill.
Is that the one right in front of? Is that the one right in front of Central?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right there by Central School.
So Penny Carpenter, Vermillion County taxpayer. I do this text thing with red and white. They send you their ad every week. It pops in your text box. You don't have to go look for it. It pops up. I think it's an excellent idea to get the notices out. For example, with the I-74 stuff, we sent out 236 postcards for 2 different meetings. I mean, it's not a lot of expense, but the property owners needed to know. So if we could get something like this, it's not outrageous, between council, commissioners, APC, solid waste, soil and water, library board, a lot of different government boards could utilize it.
I guess, RJ, do you know in that case, like when you're trying to reach a certain area of community or like parcel owners, can you determine if that reaches everyone or not?
For the text, like?
Yeah, because like if you send it, instead of sending notices out, but if you're still missing people, can you determine if it's going to hit everybody or not, I guess?
Yeah, RJ Donovan, County Commissioner.
Sorry.
We don't need to do that.
But anyway, there is an additional thing in that proposal that it's kind of what you're talking about, but it was related to natural disasters. But I think after talking to him, it could be used for something like that. So if you were driving in like a geofencing area of say Clinton, and there was like a outage of power or
Because I
whatever,
guess if we
you
used
would
it,
automatically get a text.
I
that
just want to
says,
make sure
"Hey."
that it's still hitting the targeted people that we were, intending.
So I think that's that capability, or B, the first cheaper version is just make people sign up.
I would rather more people be notified than less people.
Well, of course,
So-
but I mean, you
But
still
if
want to
it-
make sure we reach everybody because
Well, my whole thing was I wanted to see if any council members would be willing to attend this Zoom meeting to hear
Is there
about
a-
the process.
a current date and time for that Zoom.
No, I'm just gonna reach out to you guys.
How about an email? Put it
I'll
in
send
an
an email.
so-
I'll send out to an all county
Again,
email.
calendars.
And just see what works best for everybody. Maybe they may even come in here and do it.
You might ask the departments too if they're interested in using it, or if it's not. I mean, if
I
no
know
one's
the-
wanting to use it,
I know the sheriff's department is. I know.
I got a point of order. I made a motion. I don't know if there was a second. Was there a second?
Yeah.
is there any other public comment tonight?
Yes.
Okay, we got one.
Since I gotta walk up, I'll be quick. I'm gonna be.
Come on, Luke, I'm starting the timer.
Uh-oh.
Luke Martin, concerned citizen. How's that in Vermillion County?
Good job.
Heard you guys all this today, and I'm sitting and listening to everything, learning a lot. Since you dissolved all this today, what happens to the director's position? And what happens to the members? What happens to the council?
It all goes away.
It all goes away.
The council.
So he's no longer there, and he's no longer involved in it, and your director's gone
That is correct.
as of today.
Until
I
we-
just, I want to hear, I didn't hear that. I just want to make sure.
Until we get something new.
And you're gonna start all new. Yep. That's all I need to hear. That was it.
You did not dissolve the council, you dissolved the commission.
Commission.
And the coalition.
Yeah,
Yes.
the council was
Committee seats.
previously dissolved
That's-
before.
Right.
That was the parent organization.
So, yeah, that was the one that the attorney determined we had to do.
94.02.
Yeah. He determined it wasn't in accordance with the
Right.
resolutions and
Right.
ordinances, so back in 21, we had to dissolve. We
The
dissolved.
resolutions adopted in 95 and 2002 were eliminated by the coalition agreement.
Yeah, formally, we had verbally
Back in
agreed
23.
between everybody, and then we formally did it.
Since you dissolved, you're going to restart with a new board and everything, correct?
Either a board or a department, or that's the thing. Everything's on the table right now
Okay.
to where we can evaluate what is the best way to move forward.
Good.
If you got any ideas, Luke, come to our meeting.
I do have ideas.
Yeah, it will be a public meeting.
Come to the
I try to
meeting.
stay quiet. 'cause
And if
people don't
you
have
can
to like my
always
opinion.
email us as well if you have ideas, if anyone had,
Yeah.
So.
Because I think it needs to be run a little closer. I think the board needs to be a little bit, and how much the director gets paid. I think a lot of that needs to go into, a lot of factors figured in there.
Well, we didn't even know.
Expense.
I didn't
There's
know.
too much expense. And while I'm up here on my preacher seat, I know I'm missing some stuff. I think there's too much of this going on in the county,
Yeah, but I didn't know
family
what they agreed
stuff.
to. It was
I'll
less.
so leave it
than
at
what
that.
was-
How's that? There's too much family involved in different aspects of the county. I think it is, I just think it's a conflict. I'll leave
At
it at
least
that.
it has the appearance of that.
Is that the
At
sign?
least has the appearance.
Okay, those are big.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
I knew you said you'd see them from at least 40
Thanks,
mile an
Lee.
hour.
And the one thing that's gonna be on, that will change is the date. And
Okay.
it's on both sides. And so when there's something going on, these will be placed on the property, so anybody driving by can call me.
Good. I think that's a great idea.
That'd be a lot cheaper than that.
That's low tech.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right.
I like
Well, I
it.
do. Cheap.
Jeff goes with
Oh,
It's easy.
Well, I know you closed it, but I'm gonna reopen it.
So go ahead.
I probably have attended more
Leonard
Economic
Edwards.
Development Council meetings than anyone in this, well, I can't say that everybody in this room, there's 2 or 3 that's been here longer than that. And for the last year and a half, 2 years of its existence before the commissioners dissolved it, I was on that board. And to answer some of your questions, Mr. Somerville, there are many things that Economic Development Council has done over the years that's quiet, and they don't advertise it. The building that John's father owns down there, now where he has his business, that was the TerraCorp, and that was brought about by the Economic Development.
Okay.
The first director was Sandy Treaster. She lived in Vigo County, and she done an excellent job, and then she resigned that job, and later on, there was an Economic Development director they appointed, and Ed, I can't remember his last name, I think he was Cayuga. Ed Cole. And then there was a period of time, a few years, there was no director whatsoever. It's not as easy to get a director as you might think. Sometimes you advertise and it takes quite a while to get someone. And then later on, they got Bill Lawbridge. And Bill Lawbridge started out, there was no reuse authority at that time. He was hired in with the Economic Development Council. as their executive director, and he done a good job. Then, when they got the property at the Newport plant, the man says, that's too much on my plate for me to take care of all that, plus the county, everything in the county at the same time. So that's when they had a spinoff and started the Reuse Authority. And then they had to open up again and start looking for a director. And it took a while, but then they got Dylan Regan, and he done an excellent job. He really did. And then after he left, then they hired Ed Cole, or not Ed Cole, I'm sorry, Doug Hess, I'll get it right. And they hired Doug Hess. And Doug had a lot of experience. He was working for that same sort of thing in Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne's a much larger city. So he had a lot of knowledge on how to do that sort of stuff. And unfortunately to him, he'd only been in office for a few months before the previous administration, the commissioners decided it needed to be dissolved. And they'd only attended 1 or 2 meetings, so they really didn't know what was going on, but they just made up their mind it needed to be dissolved and upend the whole apple cart with everything. Then, as far as public meetings, every one of you are entitled to go to any one of their meetings, and I've never seen a single one of you at any of those meetings. So before you make too many fast judgments, at least attend one every once in a while. That's all I got to say.
To follow in on what he's just said, I agree that it is hard to find people to fill these roles. And in fact, I believe the council was approached right before Mr. Hess was hired originally to increase the salary substantially. We were asked to, because the problem was you couldn't find people of high caliber, and the council trying to promote this did agree to that. So we are on board with trying to help as much as possible.
I'm sure you are. It's tough to do. I mean, economic development is a lot easier to say than it is to do.
The average salary in the United States is $120,000 for an applicant be hired here.
We would not even have, the county would not even have ownership of the Vermillion Rise if it wasn't for Bill Auburn. And he was still the executive director of the economic development at the time. And he's also responsible for 2 or 3 of the businesses in there right now.
It's my understanding the county does not have ownership of the Rise. Is that right or wrong?
Well, that's,
I'm just telling you,
I'm not exactly clear on that myself.
I don't know if
it's
anybody's
real fuzzy. It's real fuzzy who owns that, but
It's separate, but it's in the county.
yeah, it's separate.
in the county, but
It's
it has nothing to do with the county.
It operates on its own. It has its own tax base. It has its own everything, but
and its own budget and everything. Yeah.
Like an army base.
yeah.
Okay.
So it benefits
But I
us.
think we're all on the same team, or we should be. But I think the previous administration of the commissioners created a lot of chaos, and this should have never even been up to talk about to start with.
You're correct.
I'm not interested in chaos. This is upsetting. It really is. It bothered me for weeks.
Well, it bothered me for a hell of a lot longer than that.
I'm sure it did.
Bothered me about 4 or 5 years ago.
Leonard, I applaud you. You've been involved in a lot of different
I've
things,
been
and you
involved
go
in a
to
lot of
meetings.
stuff.
You go to more meetings than anyone I know of. You're at every meeting of everywhere, but
Leonard, your time's up, bud.
they're shutting you down.
Bye.
I'm sorry.
Well, I just thought you need to be educated on that a little bit. And like I say, whenever they do start having meetings again, or whatever, at least every once in a while somebody show up. Then you can make an educated opinion instead of just speculating what happened or didn't happen.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comments? All right. I will accept that motion in a second, and we will adjourn. Thank you.
Who seconded the motion to adjourn?
I second it.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I second it.
Brenda did. Blame her.
What?
I said it was a long time ago in a place far, far away.